I wanted to talk about a creator who was also a destroyer. That really was something that was very interesting to me. In Picasso's personal life, he, to me, was a destroyer of things and a creator of things. Whenever I look at very monumental events in history or in contemporary culture, I'm interested in getting inside that person's head and figuring out where I fit into those impulses. So this is a big challenge. I wanted to really look into what the impulses behind completely annihilating something, where those impulses come from, and I wanted us to feel kind of that destructive impulse as a means of really seeing it and kind of recognizing it, rather than just like displaying it. So I wanted to get inside of it. I think maybe subliminal way, I really wanted to take people into the real historical event, but also you see Picasso creating the painting in front of you, and his act of creation is also an act of playing out the event of destruction in order to be inspired by it. I think Picasso, in our version of the story, he was the creator, but he was also the bomb. So I wanted people to be, I really wanted to twist people with this and really twist their insides so that they couldn't just safely feel one thing about it. Yeah.
What we really were trying to portray was reliving a traumatic moment through the choreography and explaining that through costume and the set as well. We also painted all the costumes so that they'd be ghost-like. They could almost fade into the background, which they did often because the lighting was... there's very minimal lighting. I mean, we only used like 6 lights to light the show, I think. 6, 3 on each side. And then we had a lantern and then the flashlights.
The child who's dead in somebody's arms in the painting I called Guernica, and she was one of my favorite characters to watch on stage. She really came alive and was, I suppose, the most heartbreaking as children can be. She was curious, and she didn't want much. She just wanted to find marzipan at the market. The whole play was set at a market because the bombing of Guernica happened on market day. And she had lost her mother, but she didn't care. She was meeting people, and I sort of used her for that childish wisdom that you can get out of a younger voice. Children can say things and not understand what they mean, but then you give those things to an audience and it changes. So it was really fun to work with that child voice. The next character was Pedro, and he was the oldest in the cast. He was a fruit seller. And he was sort of my chance as a poet to really bring in imagery and to deal with some more thematic things, metaphors, things like that. And he was deaf. I wanted somebody who would experience the moment of the bombing in a very different way. And so his deafness served as a device for that. When chaos erupts on stage, when Guernica is being bombed, he has a completely different perception because he can't hear the chaos, he only sees it. And that was, I wanted a different lens onto that level of horror. So he's the one towards the bottom of the painting who's lunging forward. Actually, in the painting, I think it's a female figure. She has breasts, but the legs are very masculine, and I translated it into a male character. So the next character is Lucia, and she's the one who's sort of reaching upwards towards I guess it's a window, a square of light. And she was a prostitute figure who comes to the market every week to solicit. And she was one of the harder ones to write, but her role really developed as I was working with actors and seeing how they could interplay on stage. And just in the movement of characters on stage, she developed a complicated, sort of almost a sense of a past with one of the other characters, Carlos. So that was really interesting to see. So then Carlos is the figure who's lying along the bottom of the painting with the stigmata on his hands. And he has left his wife, his pregnant wife, at home. He's going to be a father. He's terrified. He's thinking about abandoning the whole situation because he's so terrified. But the entire time he's going around on market day, he's asking people what he should name his child. He's convinced it's going to be a son. And so that's his sort of quest, moving through the market day. And towards the end of the play, he hits upon a name, of course, just as the bombing is occurring and just as everybody dies in their own way. Then there's Raquel, who in the painting is holding the child. And she's going through the marketplace. She's a little bit more upper class than the other characters. So she's a bit snooty sometimes, and she has lost her child somewhere in the market. So she's searching the whole time. She loses her child partway through. She's also ordering this child around. Her child is not Galena, the child in the play. I split those two characters apart. But there's a moment in the bombing where she thinks she's found her child again. She picks up Galena and she realizes that it's not the right child. She's not the most likable character through a lot of the play, but she regains this human element through the tragedy. It's really easy to ignore numbers. When you're reading the news, you get death tolls, but you don't know who the actual people are. And I've always thought that, the tragedies that hit us are when one person dies, whether it's someone who's in our own life or whether it's, a child who dies and that makes the news or something like that. It's the individual people, because then we attach whole lives to them instead of just statistics. And so I guess that's what you get to do when you put real bodies on a stage, as you have individual people. It doesn't matter, which sounds terrible to say, but it doesn't matter that there were thousands of people who died in the bombing of Guernica. It matters that these 6 people, these 6 characters died. I don't think we have space to process much more death than that, or to grieve for much more than a few people. Picasso could have painted, a scene with multitudes, but he didn't. He gave us 6 human figures that stand in for all the rest.